Hello, good morning, and welcome to Thoughts and Updates for this week. I'm in the house because the car has what seems to be seized brakes, so it's going to the garage in the morning, so I've not been able to get out and about. So, it is the Sunday after the election. Lots of people spending lots of time analysing, thinking about it, and giving their opinion. Dear England, what have you done? You've listened to a group of people who can't work out how many nurses they're going to get and how to get them together and put them in charge of your economy. You have taken a group of people who believe that disabled people cannot cope with money and put them in charge of your services. You've taken a group of people who said consistently during the 70s and the 80s and the 90s that everything was safe for them before they sold it, and put them in charge of the National Health Service. You've taken a group of people who have told you that the reason that you're in poverty is your own fault, and offered them the opportunity for more times where they can put themselves in front of food banks for photo opportunities. Dear England, what have you done? We've not done it in Scotland. We took a view that sensibly we should have the opportunity to put a community together within Scotland that was inclusive, but we didn't just say it. We've spent 10 years doing it. We've spent 10 years trying to engage with the people within our country, both those who are Indigenous and those who have appeared, those who have come to us because they believe that we offer them a better future, and those within our country who have built that better future. There are things within the Scottish National Party's manifesto and the Scottish National Party's record that I struggle with a little, and some I struggle with a lot. But ultimately, at the end of the day, like the Conservative Party down south, we have a party up here who's been in power for 10 years, who has put in place a lot of things which are very, very different, things that have mitigated. We don't have the bedroom tax because the Scottish Government decided to take money from our budget and to pay everybody's bedroom tax. We don't have fees for our prescriptions. It's £9 down in England. We don't have tuition fees. It's up to £9,000 per year down in England. We don't have so many things that we have to day and daily struggle through in order to get to the end of our month that they have down in England. And yet, what has happened is that the Labour heartlands in Sagefield in the north, they now have Conservative MPs. And listen, let's not get too derogatory about it, because up in Scotland after the 2017 election, we had that too. We had Conservatives in places like Easterhouse, where poverty has been rife, where the industry was torn out of these communities and replaced with nothing except for poverty and an opportunity to vote for change that never came. But now change has come. In the heartlands that were Labour's, the Scottish National Party have wiped them to one side. And the reason for that, for me, is very, very simple. That what has happened is that the Labour heartland has lost faith with its Labour Party. And we have lots to be thankful of the Labour Party for, because of what they have provided for us within our communities, within our welfare state, a change in the way that we looked at things, a change in what happened to us. And when the Labour Party cozies up to big business, cozies up to power, then I think that's when it loses its focus. And I think that that's what's happened. And what happened with the crash was when the bankers took us into this Dante's hell of money, that we ended up in austerity, and it was the legacy that Blair and Brown had provided for us. And then off we went into this Alice in Wonderland charge that has led to Jacob Rees-Mogg, Michael Gove and Boris Johnson, and people liking it, but not in Scotland. not in Scotland. And what will happen is that the Labour heartlands in some sense will come back because the new Labour leader cannot do any worse. The Liberal Democrats can't do any worse. And throughout the whole election, the one leader who everybody has said has somehow managed to keep her dignity up towards the end was Nicola Sturgeon, leader of the SNP and the First Minister in Scotland. Now, what Sturgeon did when she noticed that Jo Swinson had lost her seat was undignified. It was absolutely undignified, but people have to remember that Jo Swinson took the seat from a very close friend of Nicola Sturgeon in 2017, John Nicholson, who's been returned up in the Ochils as a new Member of Parliament. But there was something deeply personal about her reaction. There was something deeply important about her reaction as well, because of the decision. I've said here before that what Jo Swinson was going to do was press that button and obliterate an entire constituency by her not being here to fight this campaign, but being on the side of a bus that was Jo Swinson's Liberal Democrats. Hubris. It's a wonderful Greek thing. And she suffered from it. So, where we are now is looking at what will be the new makeup of the new Parliament, where there are more women than before. I think there's a majority of women. There's certainly a majority of women in Labour and Liberal Democrats, and that's never happened. We'll say goodbye. We've said goodbye to some hard-working constituency MPs, but also some people whose time probably had come. And it looks a strange future. Scotland has not voted for independence. Nobody has said they have voted for independence. And one of my unionist buddies on Facebook has sent out a challenge, which I'm quite happy to take, Stuart Galloway. But nobody said that the election last Thursday was a vote in independence. 40-odd% SNP votes is fantastic, but it's in a system that does not allow for single issues to win. It does not allow for there to be an opportunity for you to take that whole country, unless, of course, you are the Conservative Party or the Labour Party who get into Westminster and suddenly claim they have a mandate to do whatever they want, because the system that they've set up is a system which they win within. And then when another country does now, or another party does then, that's not acceptable. 48 out of 56 MPs in Scotland are Scottish nationalists. 48. There has not been, as far as I remember, certainly not my living memory, but as far as I am aware, the last time that happened was in 2015, when there were 53 SNP MPs. And the last time before that, when there were so many MPs, I don't think there has been. And yet, there's not a mandate for change. There's not a mandate to be looking towards the NDRF to another referendum. How's that possible? How's that defendable? Well, of course it's defendable, because you know what's happened. England's voted for people who can't count to be in charge of the economy. England's voted for people who look down on disabled people to be in charge of their services. England's voted for a party who wants to get Brexit done, even though we know it's going to take years to negotiate the withdrawal. I wonder what Scotland's going to do next. This week, another challenging week in so many different ways for so many people. We've got a new member of staff at work, so we've exponentially grown, which has been great, which is beginning to allow me to look at other things that we can do educationally, and we can develop our services and for children and young people in care and who are in our care. And whilst I am not very positive about the future in terms of our care services down south, certainly up in Scotland, it's much the same. They're really struggling. It's not to the same extent as down in England, but the cuts, the austerity, the expectations we have of people who are working in a system that's fractured and broken, pardon me, paying them very little in order to look after those that we are not willing to look after ourselves. or unable to look after ourselves is somewhat difficult to take. However, that aside, I've been writing this week. I wrote about T-Rex, Clarissa T-Rex Shields for Ringside Report, an interesting woman. She's talking about a crossover into MMA. What is it with boxers who think they can cross over into MMA? I'm not saying that MMA is tougher than boxing. I'm not saying that boxing is tougher than MMA. But what I am saying is that there are two distinctly different sports. And whereas MMA takes a multiplicity of disciplines, boxing is one discipline. It's a harsh, hard discipline, but MMA is more than one. And the idea that you can go in there and punch your way through somebody who can wrestle, take you down, or use any martial art that's out there that you have only just discovered, try to get your head round, work towards getting some form of competency just because you happen to be good at boxing, seems to me to be odd. And she's talking about an MMA crossover fight. Amanda Nunes, I think, was the one that she decided to fight, and Amanda Nunes said something very, very simple, and that is you could take a novice in with Clarissa Shield, she'll not last. She doesn't know what she's talking about. I know she doesn't. Overnight, there's been one shock to me, because the guy Craig Glover, who's on my Twitter, who I met at a boxing show in Bellhouston, and now lives and works out in New York. His pal Richard Comey had a shock defeat. Not so much the fact that he lost to Teofimo Lopez, but the manner in which he lost. Crawford marches on Michael Conlan. Well, let me go back to Michael Conlan. This weekend has seen boxing do something not different, but there are two competitions which are great. They're not quite innovative, but they are. You've got Ultimate Boxer, which takes up where Prize Fighter left off. And it was 8 heavyweights, 4 quarterfinals, 2 semi-finals and a final. And Nick Webb won. Reminded me a little bit of Audley Harrison winning Prize Fighter, both of them that he won. Webb has had a really bad year, and the time has come for him to kick on, and hopefully he will. He was beaten by Dave Allen, and that kick-started Dave Allen's career a little while ago. This hopefully will do the same for Nick Webb. Certainly hope so. Lovely guy. Came through a lot, done well. The series backed heavily by Ricky Hatton, by Paulie Malignaggi, and the people ringside were 2 former world champions, Crawler and Khan. Really a slick little package there. Golden Contracts on Saturday night, like the World Boxing Super Series. Quarterfinals, then there'll be semi-finals, and then there'll be a final, but it's over a period of time. Quarterfinals for the light heavies, where on Saturday night, and Hosea Burton versus Bob Ajisafe, the two favourites had to face off each other, and Burton was miles ahead. And again, another guy who's been forgotten. Burton has been sitting in a gym, in Gallagher's gym, watching his compadres, his gym friends, go off into world title fights like Callum Smith, all under the Gallagher stable, and he's had to sit and twiddle his thumbs. But now, off to do what he has to do. Michael Conlan, Vladimir Nikitin in Madison Square Gardens overnight. Conlan got revenge. He didn't need revenge. It was a dangerous fight for him to take, but one he needed to put to bed, because Nikitin was the guy who in 2016 in Rio he had fought and beaten, comprehensively beaten, and the judges gave it to Nikitin. And he stormed out giving one finger salutes, and then a rant at television about corruption within AIBA, who was the governing body for amateur boxing in the world. And they've been kicked out of Japan, Tokyo 2020 for boxing, and we're going to have next year at some point some kind of contest to decide who represents Britain. And that will happen first 3 months or so of 2020. Look forward to seeing that. And the new names that will follow, the Joe Joyces, follow the Anthony Joshuas, follow the James DeGales of the past, and the Amir Khans, those that came through the Olympic route. So, not the best week that we've had election-wise, but one I think that certainly parts of the country that is painted yellow are going to be able to look themselves in the mirror. The Labour Party's got a lot of strong hard thinking and a hard road to go on. I've looked at some of the people who are being touted as potential leaders. I am not a Labour Party aficionado. I cannot choose between them, but I do know that they need to go back to some kind of core values and build with some sort of charisma at the front, because that's what they're being beaten on. And Ayr United won 2-1 against Alloa Athletic yesterday afternoon, meaning that we retain our place, I believe, in the top 4, which is great, but takes time for new personnel. So, until next week, with my hearty congratulations to Ayr United manager Mark Kerr, and hopefully he gets the time to prove the doubters wrong. Bye for now.